Hello. In this example, we're going to start working with the order of operations. Now, we've all heard of Pemdas, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or something like that, more than likely. And this really is telling us the order in which we need to evaluate expressions. Now, what each of these stand for are the following. The P stands for parentheses. The E stands for exponents. The M stands for multiplication. The D stands for division. The A stands for addition. And the S for subtraction. Now, this is perfectly fine to use, but I don't actually like to use it in this form. What I prefer to see is something like this. Because division and multiplication really are on the same level as each other, and the same thing with addition and subtraction. So division is just a special form of multiplication, and subtraction is just a special form of addition. And so what that means is that the order in which we evaluate things are parentheses, exponents, and then either multiplication or division, depending on which one occurs first in the occurrence, or in the expression, sorry. And the last would be addition or subtraction, depending on pretty much whatever order you want to do them in, honestly. Okay, so here's the thing. With the exponents, we need to make sure that we understand one thing. Exponents act on the very first thing to its left. In other words, it acts on the base. So whatever the base is to the exponent, this exponent is always acting upon the base. And this seems like something that's very obvious, but it's actually very easy to confuse yourself with. So we need to make sure that we understand that. Okay, so let's look at the question. Use the correct order of operations to evaluate the following. Leave answers as improper fractions if necessary. So if it does come down to it, I don't want a mixed number. I always want improper fractions. Alrighty, so our expression is negative 4 squared plus parentheses 3 times 7 minus 1. And if we're looking at this, notice that between these, the first thing I see here is parentheses. Do I have any parentheses? Well, yes, I do. I have a set of parentheses right here. And within those parentheses, can I do anything? That's the next question you need to ask yourself with parentheses. Because if you can't do anything with them, well, then they're pointless. There's no point in having them. So in fact, they normally would just be multiplication at that point. But in here, there are in fact two different operations: multiplication, subtraction. So between these two, between the multiplication and subtraction, which one occurs first here? Well, multiplication does. So that means that the very first thing we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to multiply within that fraction first, leaving us with negative 4 squared plus parentheses. 3 times 7 is 21, and then minus 1 at the end there, close parentheses. And notice that what we've just done is we've just said 3 times 7, 21, minus 1, and that's all still in that parentheses, and everything else is exactly the same. The only thing that I've changed here is the 3 times 7. Well, look at this new expression. This new expression now has negative 4 squared plus parentheses 21 minus 1, close parentheses. And again, we still have a parentheses, and in that parentheses we have 21 minus 1. 21 minus 1 is just subtraction. That's the last thing we do. So within this parentheses, we're just left with 20. But because there's nothing else left, I could put a parentheses around the 20, but there's nothing to do within that parentheses anymore. So effectively, the parentheses is gone. We've just evaluated that parentheses. And now what we have left is negative 4 squared plus 20. So are there any exponents? Yes, there's an exponent here. But this is where it's very important that we understand that the exponents act only on the very first thing to its left. So looking at this 2, the very first thing to its left, is the 4. That means that it's just 4 squared that we're going to do here. Okay, so here, 4 squared is 16, but be very careful. This negative, I've said nothing about it. We haven't done anything with it. It's still there. It's still negative and then 16. You can think of that as negative 1 times 4 squared if you want. Anyway, we get a negative 16 out of it. And then plus 20 at the end. Going back to our order of operations up here, we've just evaluated the exponent. Are there any multiplication or division? Well, if you thought of this as negative 1 times 16, well, negative 1 times 16 is just negative 16, which is why it's just negative 16 there. And then addition, subtraction. The only thing we have left here is negative 16 plus 20. And negative 16 plus 20, well, the largest is 20, 16 is smaller, so 20 minus 16 is 4, and the largest is positive, which means that is positive 4. Alrighty. Well, there you go. There's your answer. I will see you in the next video. Have fun.